Welcome, my friends of the interwebs. I want to make a kind of an addendum video regarding my I own a cemetery vid. Just to clear a few things up and answer a few questions that I've had on this video. Yes, first and foremost, I do own that cemetery, every bit of it. Mobile Tech had asked me how big the cemetery was in relation to my property, and the answer to that is it's not very. That cemetery is only a few acres, maybe 3 acres, 2 acres, I don't know, something like that. And that particular tract of my property is 482 acres, so it's a very, very small part of what I actually own. It just came with the property, and it's not uncommon. It's very, very common for large tracts of property in southeast Kentucky to have 1, 2, or sometimes even 3 small cemeteries located on the property. That particular tract of land at one time was owned by some of the original settlers into that area, and that was a family called the Goodens. In fact, there are still several Goodens that live in that area. When they sold off that tract back in, I guess it must have been the 1800s, they accepted out of that deed their part of the cemetery, which is I don't know, maybe half an acre, and they fenced in their part. And then the rest of it went with the property, which I ended up acquiring a few years back. That's about 5 years ago now. But yes, it's very, very common to buy a property with a cemetery on it. Now, as far as people just burying their kin on my property, that happens a lot. In fact, at one point, I remember seeing a little plastic cross and some fresh dug dirt, and the little plastic cross with black permanent marker on it, it just said baby. You know, the people in the area are so poor. I know for some of my international subscribers, and most people think Americans are just rolling in cash. The fact is there are a lot of poor in the United States, and the people in that particular, in Appalachia, are extremely poor. And so all I could envision was some young girl having a stillborn child, or maybe even a crib death situation, and of course did not have the money to bury her child. As far as what I mean by that is to actually go out and buy a cemetery plot and do it the way most people would handle it. She did what she had to, which was find a place to lay her child to rest, and it just happened to be on my property. Now, I'm not a jerk. I mean, I really don't have an issue with poor people that need a place to bury their kin, but my thing is I always like to be asked, because it's just the right thing to do. I mean, if you can imagine somebody showing up in your backyard and digging a hole and burying their relative, it's just wrong. I mean, I wish they would ask, is all I'm saying. In fact, the last West that got buried there, this man actually showed up. He was on auction. I can't think. They called him Batman. I can't think of his name anymore. But he actually asked if he could buy a plot, and my answer to that was no. But you can go ahead and be buried there if that's what you'd like, and buy your kin, buy your people. And I told him, I said, try to make sure they keep you as close to the rest of the West as they can. I just don't want things to spill out, and next thing you know, the cemetery is 30 acres. That I don't want, because I have absolutely no intentions of disturbing any of those graves. First of all, I don't need the bad karma. I mean, no, those people are where they're at. People like Shirley West fought and died for this country. I mean, he is where he is, and he's never going to leave, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't even entertain the idea of having anybody moved from there. But I would like to have some control over my property. Now, yes, I do need to eventually erect a fence to basically, what I'd like to do eventually is put up a fence around all the graves, and then have a sign saying this is a historical cemetery and it's now closed. Hopefully that would work. But knowing the way things operate down there, it would they just start planting people outside of the fence. But the funeral home seemed to interest a lot of people. Yeah, when I first purchased that property in 2005, I noticed that there was a fresh grave there, and so there was a little marker that had the name of the funeral home on it, and I went to the funeral home and I told them who I was, and in fact, I even had a copy of my deed with me, and And I said to him, I said, you know, what are you doing burying people on my property? And this woman said to me, she said, well, they told us that they owned, you know, their plot. And I said, well, did you ask to see a deed? And she said, well, no. I said, well, I can show you mine, you know, and I can assure you that they did not own that plot. And I told her, I said, I would appreciate it if you would not bury people in the future without, you know, having contacted me first. Because there are some people that I would absolutely give a pass to. The West family, who I like. I know the West family. They're good people. The Goodens, if they run out of room inside of their cemetery and they wanted to bury their people, absolutely, I would have no problem with that. But I want to be contacted. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. You know what I mean? It is my property. And, you know, under certain circumstances, I could see somebody putting somebody in a very awkward position, you know, without really, you know, without you standing there, it'd be hard to really explain. But there are certain places that would interfere with my plans as far as what I have in mind for the property. So, and considering I'm the one to pay taxes on it every year and I paid for the property, I kind of like to be able to fulfill my plans. So, or at least pursue my agenda. Anyway, so yeah, the funeral home was an interesting situation. They had told me basically, if you have your attorney send us a letter, we won't. We will respect that, which I knew was BS. They weren't going to respect that, so I wasn't going to spend $1,000 on an attorney just to have them continue to do what they're doing. However, having said that, an interesting turn. The funeral home is now owned by Pinhead's people. And I don't know all the details on that. I'm not sure what the story is. I've been told several different things. Right now it's for the most part rumor. The one thing I do know is that it is Pinhead's people who own it. And what I mean by his people, his family. How much he owns of that, or if he owns any of that, I have no idea. I'll be interested to find out. People have told me several different stories on that, but I would find it interesting if Pinhead did own part of that. Considering, you know, as far as I know, he's still drawing a check from disability for SSI. But yeah, but I guess, you know, when you make illegal money, you got to be able to invest it somewhere. I don't know, but anyway, I'm not going to make this video about Pinhead. There's more to come on him later. Anyway, yeah, you know, it is what it is. I own a cemetery. It's kind of cool. It's you know, it's kind of, I mean, it's neat. I mean, I'd like to at some point go through and find out who all's in there, and yeah, maybe contact the Historical Society. Oh, and somebody did ask me about selling plots. Here's the problem: if I was to sell a plot, then I would have to be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of that cemetery. And I have absolutely no intentions of going into the cemetery business. Yeah, I'm not going to be mowing grass and blowing leaves and trimming hedges and trimming trees and doing all the stuff that I would have to do if I started selling plots. And, you know, there's not a real business, I don't think at least there's a business opportunity to be had there. That's a very poor region. And I don't know. It's not something I'm interested in doing. I would rather give somebody a burial plot than sell them a burial plot for what they can afford to pay. You know, so, you know, and also understand that, and what you've seen was the end of winter. There are still people that come there that take care of their family's graves, and they mow the grass and they actually clean it up fairly well. It's not as bad as it seemed in my video. What you seen in my video was the end of winter. You know, I should do another video showing that cemetery in the summer. And yeah, and some of the flowers that people have planted in there, it's actually quite nice. I mean, there's some of the older section of that cemetery that's not really maintained, but overall, they do a fairly decent job of the family members do of maintaining that cemetery. So anyway, hopefully I was able to answer some of your questions regarding my cemetery. Maybe I could, you know, somebody suggested that I do a Halloween video there, and you know, this Halloween, and maybe I'll do that. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll camp out in the cemetery overnight. I don't know, but anyway, I was really happy with all the response that I got. And now in the just real quickly, I've got shooting videos that will be coming up after Easter. I have, of course, on the day after Easter, I'm doing the drawing for the minnow. If you're not in on that, you know, I suggest you get in on it. But you have till Easter. Anyway, I guess that's it. I've rambled on long enough about this. Hopefully I've answered some people's questions. Everybody take care.